Good morning. Welcome to our sections using educational technology in curriculum design and material development. My name is Chi and I'm a lecturer of English at the University of Foreign Language Studies. I'm here today to share with you an experience as a beneficiary of the American English e-teacher program, a global course giving professional development opportunities for English language educators around the world. And this program has been sponsored by the U.S. Department of State. And I'm so fortunate to become a beneficiary of this program. When we talk about technology, we can see how important it is in the English language teaching, and that is one of the objectives I'm going to share with you today. Then I'm going to stress the necessity of using technology for enhanced teaching experience, and then I'm going to show you some experiences I have in exploring the multiple pathways for using available technologies in curriculum design and material developments. So when we talk about technology, when we see technology, it can be anything. It can be the use of internet, it can be the use of electronic resources, it can be the use of Instagram, Facebook, Viber, Zello, all of the things that really help facilitate the process of communication. So we can see how important it is for having technology within and outside the classroom. Technology helps the teacher to improve their learning experience. It helps the teacher to adapt their learning resources and classroom activity in order to facilitate the way the student learn. So you can see how technology is important and why do we need to use technology. A lot of researchers has made a lot of work on the very different benefits of having technology in our classroom. It helps promote interactivity. It helps with the delivery of the course content. It helps with the management of the teaching and learning experience. It helps with collaboration, coordination. It gives the sense of cohort because students work together, students do work together, they have the discussion, they have shared the experience on the discussion forum. It helps with the diversification of language and teaching and learning materials. It helps with the assessment, both summative assessment and formative assessment. So we can see how technology is important, how important it is. We can see computer technology facilitates and speeds up communication. With technology, it can really help us to express what we want to express, and we can choose the technology that we want to use. So we can see technology has an important role in promoting activities for learner, and it has a significant effect in the teaching and learning experience in improving our teaching methods. Right, so we can see how technology had facilitated our teaching and learning experience. So for teacher, it is a very good tool for the professional development of the teacher that really helps students to learn and help the teacher to teach in a more effective way. If you look at this example, if you can see the example in the picture, all of the students have the smartphone in their hands, and this smartphone really help them with communication, with text messaging, email messaging, picture, video. Even they can use this technology available in their classroom, even out of the classroom, to facilitate discussion, to facilitate the revision of classroom of lesson and course content. So technology had already expanded the ways people communicate, and it had given a lot of opportunities for people to communicate. So we have so far established the relationship, the linkages between language and technology. We know how language has been connected with the use of technology, and as English has become a global language, as English has become a medium of communication, the use of technology had expanded the way people communicate, and we can see how important it is and what implications it can have on the teaching and learning experience and English language teaching and learning. Right, so technology and English language teaching, there have been a lot of research done in the importance of integrating technology in the English language teaching and the even in the professional development of our teachers, of our language teachers around the country. So that is something I would like to share. So we can see the important role of technology, and today, never before have we talked so often about computer-assisted language learning, or CALL, and recently we have this very famous global call, the International Language and Computer-Assisted Language Teaching and Learning around the world for language educators around the world to get together to talk about how we can use and integrate technology in our teaching and learning. So that can really help the teacher improve their teaching experience and help learners to improve their learning experience. Right, so now I'm going to share with you some experience I have with using educational technology in curriculum design and in material development. So we can see how technology have been used in the helping with the teaching of grammar and teaching of vocabulary. And you can see there are many important connections between technology and grammar and vocab today. And technology provides access to different ways of teaching grammar, of teaching vocabulary. And with the different way, the teacher can have access to different types of resources that they can use in their teaching and learning of grammar and vocabulary for their teaching and also for their learners' practice. So I'm going to show you some of the web resources that we can use for teaching grammar. For example, I have been introduced to the Voice of America Everyday Grammar TV, and the website is available there. Also, I have been introduced with Activate Games for Learning American English, the longest sentence activity, which can be a very good tool for improving student opportunity and increasing opportunities for students to develop their grammar, to improve their vocabulary. Also, students can have access to American English Facebook page, and even teachers can have access to this as the materials for their material development. Also, we can see how we use the American Facebook page to teach grammar, to improve student knowledge and revision of grammatical points. And this is a very good example I have taken from the American Facebook page when we want students to learn the language patterns, for example, in this case, to spend and time and money doing something, spend money on something, for example. So this can be a very good resource for teachers and for students to improve their teaching of grammar and vocab. Also, teacher can have access to COCA, which is an abbreviation and an acronym for Corpus of Contemporary American English, which gives a lot of context, language in context, keyword in context, language patterns. In this case, for example, we can see how the use of spend has been in different contexts. And by observing the keywords in context, students can learn and teacher can also recognize the language patterns that can be used for their teaching of grammar and vocab. So we can see how technology can be used and the available resources have been adapted for the material English. We can provide some kind of example for students to practice grammar, or you can also write questions or even test questions in the different tests to help students learn with grammar and vocabulary. So that can be very helpful. You can see a lot of examples like this had been adapted from COCA or from American English Facebook page, which can be used as a grammar practice for students. Even we can use it, and then we can develop our curriculum. You can really design the lesson plan, identifying the student, the targeted participants, the lesson, the content, where you get the resources from. You can allocate the time. So all of these can be very helpful for teacher to use the resources available to develop the lesson content and also to design how the curriculum can be manipulated using the technology available on the internet. also now I would like to talk about technology and how it can be used in the teaching of speaking. And in a similar way, we say there are many important connections between technology and speaking. Actually, we can see nowadays there being a lot of applications and tools available on the internet that give teachers different ways to teach speaking for students and provide students with multiple pathways for practicing speaking. So I would show you one experience I have when I use the available resources to teach speaking. So here we can use, for example, I have chosen the topic of happiness, for example, and I have taken the resources from the American English State Government Resources, Everyday Conversation Learning American English. I have already identified the level of students' proficiency, which is pre-intermediate, and this is designed for the first year students of English. You can really design it depending on your students' the level of proficiency. So I designed this, and I identified the objectives, the aims, and different activities for the students. So for example, I can see I have some of the activity for students, identify the conversations, the dialogue, some of the keywords, exclamation, the words denoting emotions, the adjectives, the verb phrase, for example, conversational phrases that student can find in the real conversation. What's the matter, please, or I guess, for example. Even students can go to different resources like Euclid to identify and practice the speaking and also the pronunciation of some of the words. Also, you can have some we say warm-up section where students walk around and they practice using some of the words denoting the different subjects studying at school, and so use some kind of adjective denoting emotions. So they can also practice running the station using these the activities, and they can also practice the conversation. So with the available resources, students and teachers can have plenty and ample ways of practicing. Even students can practice pronunciation with the name of different subjects, with different courses, and they can use the vowel charts with consonants and vowel clusters that can really help. They can use the color coding in order to help with the practicing of vocabulary. So these are some of the things that I have already adapted in order to suit my student needs and the level of proficiency for my students. So also you can use the available technology and available resources to design the example, to design the activities, and also the homework for students, even with the pronunciation of some of the words like terrific or excellent or well done or great work or great job or good job. This can be very common in conversation, so students can have an opportunity to practice these, and you can provide a link for students to practice at home at the further practice to what they study at school. So this is how I have already used technology in teaching speaking, and also we can use technology in teaching reading. So we can also use the American English resources to choose a kind of text that can be applicable to students of different levels of proficiency. So for example, I have chosen the text, and I use another tool, text readability, in order to provide information on grade with language proficiency. So if you look at the section on the right, you can see how the level of proficiency fits in the level of text. So we can see the level of text would be at A2 or B1 or C1, and students can identify whether the level of text would be at different levels of proficiency, and they can see whether it is applicable to their real proficiency. And you can also use this readability test tool in order to measure the lexical density and the lexical richness in the text, in the reading text, in order to decide whether it is appropriate for students' level or it can be used for the reading questions items. So now you can see how the resources can fit in the listening activity, and students can also use the resources to practice listening, and teacher can use the resources to design the listening activity from pre-listening, during listening, and post or after listening for students. And they can also use some kind of dictionary online, for example, FOVO, and the website is there, fovo.com, for students to practice identification of different words and structures and unfamiliar words that they can find on the listening tapes, for example. They can also use the learner dictionaries to help them with the unfamiliar words and structures, and this can be available online with the website available on the screen, and you can use it later on. And from the available resources, I can really adapt it into the listening activity and lesson for students. The lesson plan is therefore conducted, identifying the level of students' proficiency, the different activities, the different kind of learner and teacher interactions in the middle column. And you can see on the right, you can see some of the activity for students together with the resources available that I have already used for the design of this curriculum for teaching listening. We can also use interpretation, and interpretation can be a very good medium for practicing English. And we can see how YouTube has been used for teaching interpretation. For example, I have explored YouTube, and I think that it is a very good tool and very good resource. It provides multiple resources for teaching interpretation and helps students with the teaching and with the practicing of interpretation skills. For example, we can see like I have the break news, like breaking the link between extreme weather and extreme poverty, and I use this for students to practice interpretation. So students can use this to practice interpretation, and they can have it at home and expand it later on, and that can be very good joy for students to practice interpretation. So the method that arises is how we anticipate some kind of problems, some unfamiliar words or structures or expressions that students need to be helped before they practice interpretation. So by doing this, you can help students practice intentional vocabulary learning and also unintentional vocabulary learning, because by practicing listening and watching the video, the YouTube, students can have a sense of familiar and unfamiliar words that they need to practice. So that can really help students practice speaking, interpretations, and also translation skills. So here you can see an example of students using the word vulnerable in the search box, and they can use it in the context, understanding how the words can be used in the context, using again COCA. I showed you a moment ago the contemporary English corpus. Right, so for example, this is a snapshot and then the screenshot on COCA when I look at the word vulnerable in COCA, and we can see how vulnerable can be used. So we can establish a link between practicing interpretation and expansion of the knowledge and the skills of using grammar and vocabulary using the available technology and tools. So the use of YouTube and TED Talks can also be applicable and used in the practice of interpretation for students. So our students have used YouTube and TED Talk for subtitling and dubbing, and you can see they can use the available resources for the practice of translation portfolio and logbook and journals, which can be a practice, a way of life for students at the University of Foreign Language Studies. And also students have used this kind of TED Talk and also YouTube to practice subtitling and dubbing into this. That can be very convenient for students. So in a nutshell, we can see technology has a lot of implications for English language teaching and learning. The application of technology has considerably changed the way we teach and the way our students learn. Technology provides so many alternatives as making teaching more interesting and more productive. It enhances the learner experience and encourages higher order thinking skills with imagination, with collaboration, and multimedia and teaching methodology is therefore very important to attract learners' attention toward English language learning. And that's all. And I would like to say that technology can be used as a catalyst that motivates teachers and learners to learn, to talk, to work, to network in new ways. Thank you very much. And that is the end of the section today on using educational technology in curriculum design and material development. Thank you, and see you in the next section of the series. Thank you.